Like, how are you doing? Because you're a father, you're a husband, you're the son of immigrants. Yes, you're a senator, but you're all of those other things. And I'm just kind of doing an emotional temperature check on what is your state, your emotional state right now before we start the interview.
Yeah, no, I think I'm doing okay, but you're absolutely right. There's so many layers, so many dimensions to this. I mean, it's not lost on me. I think the significance of what happened, um, but because of the times that we're living in, I think it has been important for me to continue to speak out, to continue to encourage people who are responding to what happened, to channel that top of mind, or Angela and the boys, because for them, as disturbing as the visuals are for most people, you know, my kids saw dad. That happened to dad. And already, I mean, just coming to the office today, my youngest says, "Who's going to protect you?"
All of this starts because Latinos and Latinas take to the streets to protest ICE in their communities. That is the context in which you go to see Department of Homeland Security head Kristi Noem.
And the people of Los Angeles aren't going to stand for it. We've been through this before. If we go back to, the mid 90s and Proposition 187. So yes, Los Angeles and California knows how to stand up for our rights. This is our history. We know what to do when there's an administration or a government in general that is exceeding their authorities and undermining our fundamental rights. But you mentioned that's what led me to attend the press conference. And I think there's some important context here. Number one, why was I in Los Angeles? It's because for months and months, as I, as a senator, along with my colleagues, have been trying to get more information from the administration. They've been largely non-responsive, right? As things were getting tense. And on my way to Los Angeles, we knew we had secured a briefing, not from the secretary, but from representatives of Northern Command, the Department of Defense officials overseeing this operation. So that's what led me to the federal building that Thursday morning.
Senator is going to meet with people from the northern military officials from the Northern Command regarding overwhelmingly nonviolent protests led overwhelmingly by Latinos and Latinas, correct?
Correct. But also the role of the Marines, as this administration has tried to do in immigration enforcement. This is not why people enlist. They prepare and train to fight wars abroad. They're not trained and they don't sign up for immigration enforcement domestically. And so I make my way to the federal building in West Los Angeles. And even as a senator, I get to the entrance and I'm met with by a National Guardsman and an FBI agent to escort me. I go through security screening, and that's not uncommon even for a United States senator. I'm escorted up to a conference room upstairs, and I'm awaiting this briefing with representatives of Northern Command when I learned that Secretary Noem is having a press conference a couple of doors down. And I share this detail because obviously the administration is spewing lies and tries to paint the story differently. These are the facts. I hear about the press conference, and I ask my escorts if it's possible to go over and listen, because maybe, just maybe, there will be some information shared at this press conference that can be informative, that could be helpful in understanding what's going on. I didn't just get up and walk. I asked. They escorted me over. They opened the door for me. They let me in and stood near me as I was listening for, I don't know, what seemed at least 5, maybe 10 minutes. Not shocked that there wasn't new information being shared. It was a lot of just political rhetoric once again.
We now have seen multiple political officials. Newark Mayor from New Jersey, Ras Baraka, detained. In New York City, the controller of the city, Brad Lander, also detained in a courtroom. There is a specificity, and I know it's not lost on you, Senator, when a Latino politician from California is detained violently by federal officials. I just want you to tell us what this is communicating to you and to the country about the Trump administration being prepared to go after people, including elected officials, who question him, oppose him, frankly, again, just simply have questions.
I've been saying, since the incident, time and again, if this is how this administration will respond to a senator with a question, then you can just imagine what they will do or what they are doing to so many other people around the country when the cameras are not on, for their audacity to ask a question about their rights or to dissent when they disagree with the administration. Look, I proudly represent California, but also so many people from around the country, right? What I symbolize seems to scare Donald Trump and this administration. The fact that you have to ask me this question says more about them, right? Because the rhetoric, we can say, oh, it goes back to the tone that Donald Trump set the first time he came down the escalator of Trump Tower to announce his first campaign for president, because he understands our power. He understands our grit, our resilience, our work ethic, our patriotism to the United States of America because of our belief in the American dream. And for whatever twisted reason, it scares him. He feels threatened by it.
In some ways, Senator, there was a whole conversation that Latinos and Latinas voted for Donald Trump and therefore were responsible for Donald Trump winning the election. But it seems to me that you're saying Latinos and Latinas in Los Angeles actually should now be credited with attempting to save American democracy by challenging ICE. Do you believe ultimately that what's happening now is the attempt to silence, to attempt to create fear so people do not want to practice their freedom of speech, which is essentially enshrined in our Constitution? Do you believe that that's part of the ultimate goal here?
Yeah, no doubt. Donald Trump would love nothing more than for us to stay silent, for us to cower and to go into hiding. But again, Los Angeles and California has been through this before. I was inspired to turn to government and politics in the 90s with Proposition 187 being on the ballot and seeing a whole movement created then for our community to stand up. And when I say our community, I'm not just talking Latinos, because there's a lot of immigrants from Asia, from Africa, from Europe, from all corners of the world that share this being scapegoated and share the need to speak up. Proposition 187, as you'll recall, was in many ways a precursor to the rhetoric that we're hearing at the national level now. But that's what inspired me to leave a young engineering career behind, to march in the streets with family and friends, and to realize that if we want our community to not be the target of attacks, then we need to engage.
Vice President J.D. Vance actually misnames you. He knows that you are Senator Alex Padilla, and he actually referred to you as Jose Padilla. Now, that is an absolute racist dog whistle. I think we can actually call it that. For the longest time, Mexicans, we've been referred to as Jose and Maria. It's kind of like it is a bit of a dog whistle. Jose Padilla is a Puerto Rican American citizen who was charged with terrorism. The point is that it's as if J.D. Vance, the vice president, was essentially saying, we are all essentially criminals. What was your response, and what do you take away from the fact that J.D. Vance, who likes to talk about the fact that he's a Yale graduate, could make such a basic mistake?
I know it was intentional. That's how this administration operates. And to me, it's not just yet another example of how petty they are, but how unserious this administration is about the situation in Los Angeles or so many other issues. Look, if you're the vice president of the United States, I have respect for the office, and I would imagine that a vice president who takes the job seriously could be in Los Angeles to get a briefing on the ground. And part of getting an assessment of what's on the ground is to taking some time to visit with Sheriff Luna of Los Angeles County or Police Chief McDonald of Los Angeles City, so they could hear directly from them what I've been hearing from them, which is frustration upon frustration now for weeks for the lack of communication, the lack of coordination that the federal agencies have had with local law enforcement. Right from the very beginning of all this, the unprecedented federalization of National Guard troops against the wishes of the governor, the mayor, and local law enforcement only served to make the environment in Los Angeles more tense. They escalated when it was unnecessary and counterproductive to do so.
It seems to me that what you're saying is the protests that have been taking place in a city like Los Angeles will actually transform young Latinos and young people in general.
I think that the California story is a good one to replicate, right? Instead of cowering, instead of going into hiding, the community by and large chose to engage. And you had a couple of very important dynamics. You had people like my parents who had been in the United States for decades with no interest or urgency in becoming citizens, finally taking those steps, not just to protect themselves, but to be able to register to vote and participate in elections. And so the California electorate and California political representation is very different today, largely as a result of that. Second, you had a young generation motivated and inspired to say, you know what, that's enough. They're targeting not just us individually, but our community, and we're not going to stand for it. And so we engaged. So now that's sort of a playbook for other regions of the country to potentially emulate. We don't go into hiding. We don't cower or stay silent. It doesn't happen on its own. You have to choose to engage. You have to choose to organize. You have to choose to advocate.
Which leads me to this question. The administration, again, continuing to push the limits of what may or may not be constitutional. President Trump announcing that the United States went and bombed Iran.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from New York said that she believes that President Trump may have violated the Constitution and Congressional Powers Act, and that therefore this is grounds for impeachment. I'm wondering where you stand on this right now.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're at that conversation yet because of the volatility of the situation. Let me say this. He should have come to Congress for authority. We need to learn. The decisions he made were based on what intelligence? Because there's either tangible information to justify an action like this, or there isn't. We don't know yet because he did not consult or seek the authorization from Congress. So still a lot of unanswered questions.
Senator, as you know, a lot of people across the country feel like nothing can be done. What is the message that you want to leave the listener with in the sense of their personal responsibility about what one does in this moment, especially after what you've just lived through, Senator Padilla?
So there's a couple things I want to say. Number one, it is absolutely natural and understandable to feel overwhelmed. That's what Donald Trump wants. He wants to overwhelm us to the point of paralysis. So let's be mindful of that and not give him what he wants. Let's channel that anxiety, that fear, that nervousness, whatever it is, into some sort of action. Now, what action means is different for everybody. For some people, it's maybe calling your member of Congress for the first time ever if you haven't done that before. Maybe it is attending a march or a rally and demonstration because I hope they continue. I hope they stay peaceful. For others, it may be organizing a voter registration drive. For others, it may be supporting an advocacy organization. Taking action means something different for everybody, but everybody can do something. And as I said in my floor speech last week, if this administration is this fearful, this threatened by one senator with a question, imagine what they feel when they see millions of people across the country doing something.
Senator Alex Padilla from California, thank you so much for joining me on Latino USA.
Thank you, Maria.